Have you ever just, sat and wondered how a new country is actually born? It's way more than just planting a flag somewhere and saying, this is ours now. Turns out there's a rulebook, a checklist, and a whole lot of global politics involved. So let's dive in and see if we can build a country from the ground up.
So what's the secret sauce? What's that magic ingredient that turns a piece of land with some people on it into a full-fledged state with a seat at the UN? Is it having a government? An army? Getting a thumbs up from your neighbors? Well, it's kind of all of the above, and it really starts with a few basic questions.
All right, let's imagine a brand new island nation. We'll call it Ethelgard. The people of Ethelgard have just declared their independence. They're celebrating, they've designed a cool new flag, but here's the big question. Is Ethelgard really a country in the eyes of the world? Not yet. They've got some homework to do first.
Okay, so the very first thing on Ethelgard's to-do list is to pass what's basically an international legal exam. You can think of it as the official application to join the Club of Nations, and this application lays out the ground rules for everybody.
And that application form is a super important treaty from 1933 called the Montevideo Convention. It's famous because it lists 4 essential things you need to have to be considered a state. And if our friends in Ethelgard can check off all 4 of these boxes, they're well on their way. You want to see the list?
Here we go. This is the big one from Article 1 of the Convention. First, you need people, a permanent population. Can't have a country with nobody in it, right? Second, you need a place, a defined territory. You got to know where your country starts and ends. Third, you need control, an effective government. And fourth, you need to be your own boss, the capacity to have relations with other countries. Let's see how Ethelgard does.
The first 2 are honestly pretty easy for Ethelgard. It's an island, so it has a stable community of people living there, and its borders are, well, they're the ocean. So a permanent population? Check. A defined territory? Check. 2 down, 2 to go. This is looking good.
Now, here's where it gets a little tricky. An effective government. What if, just a year into this whole thing, Ethelgard's first government gets overthrown in a coup? The new group in charge is a revolutionary one. Does that mean Ethelgard just stops being a country? Does the rest of the world have to officially approve of this new government?
This exact kind of messy problem was actually sorted out almost 100 years ago in a landmark case, and it set a huge precedent. It basically established that whether other countries like or even recognize your government doesn't really matter. The only thing that international law cares about is this. Is the government actually in charge? Are they running the show? That's the test. The magic words are effective control.
So let me tell you about the real-life case. A revolutionary government, led by a guy named Tinoco, took over in Costa Rica. Now, a lot of big countries like the US and UK refused to recognize it. But this government was clearly in charge. It made deals, including some oil contracts with British companies. Later, when the old government got back in power, they tried to cancel those oil contracts, saying, hey, that Tinoco government wasn't legitimate. But an arbitrator looked at it and said, nope. The ruling was clear. Because Tinoco's government had effective control, the deals it made were valid. It didn't matter if anyone recognized them or not.
So, let's get back to our island. Ethelgard's new revolutionary government manages to get things under control and run the country. It has effective control. And with that, boom, Ethelgard is now officially checked off all 4 boxes of the Montevideo Convention. On paper, legally speaking, it is a state. But its journey is far from over.
Because, you see, being a state on paper is one thing, but being treated like a state by everyone else, that's a whole different ballgame. Ethelgard is about to step into the complicated political world of international recognition.
The leaders in Ethelgard are probably scratching their heads right now. They followed the rules, they passed the test, so why are their neighbors refusing to sign trade deals? Why is no one opening an embassy in their capital? Well, this is where a huge legal debate comes roaring to life.
So there are 2 big schools of thought on this. The old school one is called the constitutive theory. It says that a country isn't really a country until other countries say it is. Their recognition literally creates the state. But the modern view, the one we mostly follow today, is called the declaratory theory. It says that's totally backwards. This theory argues that once a place meets those 4 factual criteria we talked about, it is a state, period. Recognition from others doesn't create it, it just declares that they're acknowledging a reality that already exists.
So what does all this mean for Ethelgard? Under modern law, yep, it's a state. But without recognition, it can't really do much. It can't join the club. It's kind of stuck in this international limbo where the legal theory says one thing, but political reality says another. And this isn't just some fantasy scenario. This is the reality for places around the world that meet the criteria for statehood but don't have widespread recognition.
So, Aethelgard's next mission is crystal clear. It has to get out of this limbo and start gaining that practical recognition. Because with recognition comes all the perks and privileges of being a full member of the global community.
And what are those perks? This is the good stuff, what Aethelgard's been working for. Once you're recognized, you can sue in other countries' courts to protect your interests. Your diplomats get immunity. They can't just be arrested. You can sign binding treaties on trade, on defense, on the environment. And of course, the big one, you can apply to join the United Nations.
And look at that. Over time, Aethelgard's hard work pays off. In its first year, it gets its legal ducks in a row. By year 2, a friendly neighbor recognizes it and signs a trade deal, and that starts a domino effect. And by year 4, after a big vote, Aethelgard's flag is finally raised outside the UN headquarters in New York. They made it.
Now, Aethelgard's story might be made up, but that journey is very, very real for so many places. And this whole process, this rule book for how to build a country, is way more than just a legal curiosity. It is the absolute foundation of our entire global system.
Just think about it for a second. Every single interaction between countries, from trade deals to air travel to fighting climate change, it all depends on having a clear, predictable system for what a state is and what it isn't. This blueprint is what turns a potentially chaotic world into an organized community of nations.
And how many times has this whole process played out? 193. That's not just some random number. That's how many member states are in the United Nations today. Every single one of them, at some point, went through their own version of Aethelgard's journey to define themselves and get recognized by the world.
At the end of the day, this system, even with all its flaws, is what provides the stability our world needs for international law to even exist. It's the bedrock of diplomacy. It's why treaties mean something. And it's the framework that helps us, hopefully, avoid conflict and work together on the big stuff.
But here's a final thought. This whole system was designed for a world of physical borders and territories. As we look to the future, with the internet creating global communities and people even talking about digital nations, you have to wonder, will these 20th century rules still work? What is it even going to mean to be a country in the world of tomorrow? Now that's something to think